You don't go on a lot of interviews, right? Like especially like longer one.
So when you go into the film, you can see the character as the character rather than
An actor.
myself เพื่อที่จะแบบทำหากินในวงการนี้ you have to ขายตัวเองไง
Yeah.
you have to แบบนี่ไงกู it's a bit exhausting for me to be
Yeah.
like
I get
like
that.
exaggerating everything all the time
Yeah.
สวัสดีครับคุณลูกค้า เสื้อตัวนี้อย่างนี้เกงตัวนี้ราคาเท่านี้โอ้โหดูสิมันเย็บดีมากนี่
Uh-huh.
แล้วแบบมันใช้พลังงานสูงมาก แล้วก็ผีของ Muslim is not actually ผีนะ
Uh-huh.
they call jinn and they're not good or bad they're just like humans they're like good jinn bad jinn ผีมีศาสนาด้วย imagine anything that would go wrong on set went wrong on this film fuck it we'll do it live
This is Comedy Featuring. My name is Vic and welcome to the show. In 1997, that's 27 years ago, our today's guest appeared on the silver screen for the very first time. And ever since then, he's been in about almost 40 movies. And he's known for being one of the best, most talented actors who keeps challenging himself with different kinds of roles. But that being said, there's something he kept coming back to because 11 out of 38 movies he starred in are ghost movies. And that happens to be the genre that he best known for. I mean, in some sense, we've all seen Shudder, right? And that's what, about 20 years ago in 2004? And today, people are still talking about it. And today, he's back with yet another one. And this one, not gonna lie, looks very scary too. Take a look. Let's welcome to the show Ananda Everingham สวัสดีค
ค
รั
รับ บสวัสดีครับ
Thank you so much for coming to Comedy ครับ
ครับ of course
Right, so how are you doing these days?
I'm good good
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to adjust to this because
Okay.
like I was telling you before everybody's Thai here so instinctively I feel the need to speak Thai every now and again
Yeah.
so it's okay if we do like maybe
Sure.
a little bit of Tinglish
Tinglish.
Tinglish.
Yeah, of course.
ครับบางทีมันแบบคำไทยมันอธิบายความคิดได้
เห็นด้วย
ผม
ครับ
I think in English right
Yeah.
but certain words I feel the Thai word explains it better
Yeah, conveys better like แซ่บกว่าถ้าเกิดพูดภาษาไทย
exactly
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, do people still like walk up to you and ask you about Shudder or tell you how they love the movies even after 20 years?
Yeah Shudder I still get comments about Shudder from both Thai and foreign audiences
Yeah.
especially the foreign audiences because it's iconic of the time so if you're people around my age you all remember The Ring, The Shudder, Asian horror when it first became a big genre in the world.
True.
And so being part of that trend at that time. So a lot of people my age would come up to me and
Yeah.
ปวดไหล่ไหมปวดไหล่ไหม
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then we still like do that jokes like ปวดไหล่ hey are you sure that nothing's on your shoulders or stuff like that?
No, that's the surprising thing, right? Because we always were very hesitant about that ending.
Yeah.
And the directors around my age พี่โต้งโอ๋อะบรรจงand ภาคภูมิอะ
ครับ
they're big time directors now but back then they were maybe like อายุไล่เลี่ยกันเลย were 1 year apart I think and so I was I think 21 at the time and they must have been around 21 22 as well and when they wrote the ending for this nobody was confident about that twist ending
Really?
yeah everybody was just like oh my god if this doesn't work then the whole film is messed up this is going to fall flat on its face and it's surprising that 20 years later it's still a big part of the what people remember of the film that twist at the end
Turns out to be like one of the best decision I think and
Yeah,
the twist
it-
works.
Imagine the directors and myself when we were testing the film out on the audience before we actually released the film. So everybody was just waiting to watch the audience at the very end of the film.
Yeah.
And we were surprised that it was very effective and also
Yeah.
incredibly universal
Right.
because it worked everywhere.
And the movie got like remade into like different languages too, or into like one Hollywood one, I
Yeah,
guess.
there was the one Hollywood one. I'm not quite sure if they remade it anywhere else. But yeah, I think the Asian one was better.
I know.
Nothing to do with me in the film, but I mean, I think it just fit better with like the Asian culture and the way we believe in ghosts. And
I think so too.
so when they tried to westernize it, I don't know. It just wasn't as effective.
It doesn't always work, does it? I mean, trying to westernize the Asian or Japanese or like Chinese movies or certain kind of movie into like the American context.
I think it's also pacing because Asian horror at the time had a style.
Yeah.
It was quite slow burn.
Right.
And so it was more creepy rather than the Western
The Hollywood
style
pacing,
was,
like
is much quicker
dynamic of the Hollywood movie.
แบบ much more in your face, right?
Yeah. Right.
like ของชงฉางกว่า you know
ใช่
like the Asian style is like slowly creepy เน้นเรื่องเสียง
Creepy is the key, I think. Like we need creepiness for a certain kind of like horror or ghost movies. Well, speaking of like pacing or being slow burn, we just talked before starting recording that these days people enjoy something that is super like fast paced and like the shorter the better. I need to go to the next one now or stuff like that. But you are one of the people who still enjoys something like slow or long form, right?
Yeah, I always tend to look for something that's long form, and it's instinctive in a way because for me it's the satisfaction that comes with putting the time into something, and whether it be like podcast or books or film series, whatever. I like the idea that I have something that I can indulge in, so I can be with it แบบนานๆอ่ะ you know แบบอยู่กับมันได้นานๆแล้วแบบ
Taking
แล้ว
time
มันก็
with
ทำให้
it.
มัน it makes me feel that anticipation like how when you finish work I'm like I'm gonna go home watch my series I'm gonna go do something
Yeah.
And it's just so much more satisfying. It sucks when you get through it, right? You get to the end of it, then you're like, oh god, now I have to like ต้องไปหาอีกอะ you have to go go look for something that will scratch that itch, right? And for instance, I give you I like all types of content, but I especially like sci-fi. So, and I like animation and stuff like that as well. I just watched animation series called Pantheon. อันนี้แนะนำเลยนะฮะใครไม่เคยดู Pantheon นะครับ it goes into that deep dive about simulation theory and โลกมันจริงหรือเปล่าอะไรเงี้ยซึ่งผมแบบเนิร์ดพวกเนี้ยผมเนิร์ดแบบไซไฟ science อะไรเงี้ย
Okay.
แล้วก็ดู I watched 2 seasons of it and I still can't find anything that can like fill that gap.
Right.
I feel like I have a void in my heart right now. I'm looking for something to fill it right now.
But the good thing is you can find just anything, any genre, any kind of content on any platforms these days. Yeah, if you just like put some effort into like searching for what you really want.
No, but that's the thing is that you get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because there's so much. As much like for instance Netflix. There's a lot on Netflix that's content that I enjoy. But you get into like this weird. It's a bit like FOMO. It's like there's so much, right? And you're like, should I watch this or should I watch that? And then no. Okay, fine. I'll do 15 minutes here, and then I go watch this one for another 15 minutes, and you're like scattered all over the platform, and you're watching 10 different things at a time, and then it becomes fatiguing.
yeah
It's
super
like, and then it's like เหนื่อยอะแบบ ไม่ดูละ
แล้วสุดท้ายก็ไม่ได้ดู
ไป
อะไร
เล่นไอ
เล
จี
ย
แล้วก็ไปเล่นไอจีต่ออะไรเงี้ย
yeah that happens it's
อันนี้
like
คือแบบเกลียดตัวเองจริงๆนะตื่นเช้ามาแบบเหมือนเราแค่เช็ค just checking my phone for the time right and then รู้ตัวอีกทีนิ้วโป้ง is like
before you know it it's noon already
it's like ว่ากูมาถึงไอจีตอนไหนวะ and I have the app in a separate folder on the third page of my phone
okay
and even then sometimes I'm like ฮะ กูมาถึงตรงนี้ได้ไงวะแบบ scroll อยู่
even when we know that this is not super healthy but we cannot stop ourselves
ใช่
from scrolling
ใช่
ใครๆก็เป็นอนันดาก็เป็นนะครับ
มันไป
อาการแบบนี้
มันไปอะไรนะมันเหมือนไปมันไปกระตุ้นไออะไรนะเหมือนแบบ
dopamine
มังกี้เบรนของเราที่มันแบบ
my brain yeah
ที่มันแบบได้ reward แล้วแบบand it spikes your dopamine right
like fun yeah
แต่ไม่ได้ที่อะไรเลยนึกออกไหมชั่วโมงหนึ่งผ่านไปแบบได้อะไรวะจำได้ป่ะจำยังไม่ค่อยได้เลยอะไรเงี้ย
นั่นแหละสิครับ wow okay you need to be super
I
aware
sound like an old guy right
yeah but I think that's a problem for a lot of people these days too it doesn't matter like what age you're at okay so you don't go on a lot of interviews right like especially like longer one
I don't think there are many available out there, right? I think that's also another issue.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not super high energy type of personality. Naturally, I'm
Okay.
quite chill.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a bit exhausting for me to, be
yeah
like
I get
like
that.
exaggerating everything all the time.
Yeah
So usually what I do is if I have a film that's like the one that's about to be released next month, then I do this. I do the interviews. But if there's nothing for me to promote, I usually just I
yeah
stick to my privacy.
right
And it's มันเป็นสองอย่างส่วนหนึ่งเป็นบุคลิก partly it's because I'm a bit introverted and partly because it's calculated as well because and this goes against the trends nowadays right so like the part that's calculated is that I feel that for the audience to have the suspension of disbelief with the character to believe that's the character rather than that's me it's better they know less about me
yeah
and so that there's no association to like wait
yeah
P. Ananda dresses like this speaks like this when I think it's better if it's a blank slate so when you go into the film you can see the character as the character rather than
An actor
myself
or a person
the part ที่ไอ้บอกมันส่วนกระแสหน่อย because nowadays เพื่อที่จะแบบทำหากินในวงการนี้ you have to ขายตัวเองไง you have to แบบนี่ไงกูดูสิกูชอบอะไรบ้างกูชอบแต่งตัวอย่างนี้กูชอบกินอาหารอย่างนี้อะไรเงี้ย
yeah
and มันสวนทางกับ it's like against what I was จะเรียกว่าเป็น what I was trained as an actor
as an actor okay so actually we have heard about these thoughts of yours or the belief of yours regarding this that you don't want people to focus on an actor but instead you go and focus on the character and enjoy the story enjoy the movie so is this something that you thought of yourself or someone taught you or like told you about this and you go like oh this is a good idea I'll adopt this
it's more classical training to be honest and also it fits into my my temperament as somebody who's a bit more introverted, and I've always been this way since I was young, right?
Yeah.
ชอบทำอะไรคนเดียวอะไรเงี้ย so it's actually quite common with us, the my generation and
Yeah, in those
and,
days, like
and
with no social media at all. Yeah.
so ยกตัวอย่างอันนี้เข้าใจง่ายสุด for instance DiCaprio doesn't do interviews, and that's partly because he wants to
That's separate.
keep that distance from the audience. Or somebody like Daniel Day-Lewis
Yeah.
understands that it's about the character, and sometimes when you become too indulgent in the character, in the way you're like indulgent หมายถึงแบบเรามีความแบบนำเสนอสกิลการแสดงจากการที่เราเป็นอนันดานึกออกปะ
Okay.
that idea of self, like I am the actor who's portraying this character to you.
Okay.
And sometimes when you're too self-aware of who you are when you're the character, sometimes you start to indulge. Like, oh, this is so good. This is such a cool scene. This is where I get to show off my skill.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so I like the idea that myself, my ฉัน has nothing whatsoever to do with the character. It's not easy to do, but I mean, it's kind of a structure and a guideline that I like to stick by.
Okay.
So sometimes if I know I'm doing things that are too me or too ananda or too indulgent of the craft, I try to create that distance.
I see.
And I think the more we become public and the more that people also indulge in who you are, it kind of perpetuates itself. So now you're constantly thinking like, oh, I'm good because of me. It's good because of me.
Yeah.
Where it shouldn't be about you.
Okay.
In the character, that I mean.
I see.
So ก็เลยอยากให้มันแบบมี distance นิดหนึง
But so why are you good at your craft then?
I would say training, and I'm not always good. We all have bad days. I try to keep a certain baseline and standard, and I would say the only way to maintain that is to approach it a bit like exercise.
I see.
So if you don't exercise, you're not as strong, you're not as fit.
Right.
And I look at it as that kind of muscle memory, where if I'm constantly training or constantly บางทีไม่อยากว่ามันพูดแล้วมันดูแบบมันอีนิดหน่อยอ่ะมันดูแบบ
ยังไงครับ
อีพวก artist
But that shows that you're serious on
มันคือวิชา basically I see it as a craft.
Yeah.
You practice your craft, you become better.
Right.
And if you don't practice your craft, it's not like it just stays there. It's not like you get to level A, level B, whatever, and then once you achieve that, it just stays at that level.
Yeah.
If you don't practice it, it goes down. So and I think it's like many different things. If you want to get good at something, you just have to do it constantly.
Yeah.
Workshops, rehearsals, acting classes, whatever you can do.
Okay.
And don't forget, acting is in a sense the portrayal of real life, right? So all the things that you do in your life can be elements that you use in the craft.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, music,
Yeah.
history, books, all these things can add to the depth of not just yourself, but also the character that you're portraying.
Right.
It's a bit like when you see somebody who has depth and you can just see it. It's like you just see like on that person's face or how that person speaks or walks or talks. You're just like ผ่านอะไรมาเยอะคนเนี้ยคือมันมีทั้งดีและไม่ดีมันหมายถึงแบบมันเป็น negative หรือ positive ก็ได้ but คือ once that person has that depth it's and then you hone it into a craft like เหมือนคนเล่นดนตรีอ่ะถ้าเขามีอะไรแบบอะไรลึกๆอยู่
ประสบการณ์เยอะ
อะไร
ดึงมาใช้ได้
แต่ว่าเขาต้องมีสกิลอันนี้ด้วยไง
ใช่
ซึ่งอันนี้มันต้องซ้อมไงก็ acting ก็เหมือนกัน
Now let's talk about the new movie of yours that you're coming back this time. It's still like a horror movie or like ghost in that. But I bet it's different this time too. It's not exactly the same as you have done so many times earlier.
Yeah, this one's quite unique in the sense that it comes from a Muslim perspective.
Right.
And I never grew up with the Muslim culture. I have friends who are Muslims, but then again, I don't know much about the religion and the culture. And what I found intriguing about this is that it's a horror ghost film, that Asian horror style that we รู้จักกันดี but it's coming from a Muslim perspective. Right. And so when I read the script for the first time, I felt it was quite familiar, but at the same time, it was very distinctly different. It felt very new to me.
Yeah.
And แบบแล้วก็ผีของ Muslim is not actually ผีนะ they call it jinn. And so if you translate that into English, it's like genie.
Oh, I see. I can see the relation now.
So and this was something I found quite fascinating because my character also plays this character who's ignorant to the culture, right? And so as this character progresses through the film, he starts to learn more about Muslim beliefs and superstitions and so on. And to learn about things like jinn,มันน่าสนใจมาก It's actually they think of it as another species that lives in another มิติอะ you know
dimension
that อยู่คู่กับมนุษย์ but เขาไม่ได้บอกว่ามันคือผีวิญญาณคือมันเป็นแบบซึ่งแบบคอนเซปต์มันแบบ exotic มากคือมันเป็นอีก race หนึ่งเลยอะที่มันอยู่that exists in a different dimension and they're not good or bad, they're just like humans. They're like good jinn, bad jinn. They just and if there's a reason for them to cross over, that's like there has to be like that like that trauma or that traumatic event that makes
for them to cross over,
like something like that
in our dimension,
something like that. Well, it was really that's the part that I found really quite fascinating. It's like แปลกดีไม่ and another thing I quite liked about the concept is that it's based in the early 2000s. So มันอยู่ในช่วงที่มันมี conflict ภาคใต้ค่อนข้างรุนแรง when we had the conflict down south and so that conflict between Buddhist and Muslim was we
also
wanted
played into the story.
So we wanted to elevate that and make it a bit more visceral in the concept.
I see.
Because คือทุกวันนี้มันแบบ we're so much more open, but back then it felt very there was like a gap between the Buddhists and the Muslim people.
Yeah. And the movie is called The Cursed Land. So the land in the name, it refers to what? Is it like the neighborhood or the place?
So my character Mid and May, so เป็นพ่อลูก,
the
right?
daughter, okay.
So we move into this old house in Nong Chaw.
Right.
And so basically the idea of the cursed land is that this house is on cursed land. This land has been through so much trauma over the generations, and it's not just things that we've made up. We've actually connected it to history as well, like the canals in Nong Chaw. It's believed that they were dug by Muslim slaves and so we connect it to history as well. And so over the years, we just think of this physical place as the cursed land, not just physically, but also what trauma and what
historically
history,
too.
historically, what it went through.
Yeah. Okay. So because this like neighborhood or this place is like there are a lot of Muslims living in that like neighborhood too. So the jinn kind of comes with the house, right? Okay. And things are happening, which is also, even though you're saying that it's not ghost, but it's like also scary in its own way, right?
The difference I would say with this is that being that the jinn is a bit more complex than just, like some ghost that has evil intentions and just wants to kill
That
you
we're
or something
familiar
like that.
with in movies.
It's treated more like a human character. So part of the reason why the character is haunted by the jinn is because the jinn is also dealing with trauma from the past. So it's like two traumatic energies that meet, and because they connect to each other, that's the thing that แบบ exacerbates it. It makes it even แบบมันขยายตรงนั้นนะเพราะว่าแบบ trauma ของไอ้มิดกับ trauma ของจินที่มันแบบสิงอยู่ในบ้านน่ะ so มันพอมันเจอกันมันแบบยิ่งแบบ accentuate พากันไปใหญ่อะไรเงี้ยคือถ้า if let's say Mid was in a healthier place, the jinn wouldn't affect him so
see.
strongly.
Okay. All right. It's going to be in theater this coming July?
July
Yeah.
July 11th, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen the film.
Yeah?
I watched it in the Rotterdam Film Festival.
Okay. So, and that's a final edited version too. Like,
It was like 90.
I see.
90%. They
Okay.
needed to touch up some of the CG and
Yeah.
some of the sound, but the plot, the editing, everything was locked down. So.
Okay. So, did it come out the way you expected it to be?
To be honest, I was surprised that it's more than just a horror film. I mean, it ticks all the boxes for that Asian horror style, but I was surprised that the historical aspect and that whole aspect about the cursed land, the trauma that land went through. You can look at the film from a social point of view as well, and still be entertained by all the horror genre stuff. บ้านผีสิงandจินผีอะไรเงี้ยพวกนั้นก็อยู่ครบหมดแต่ว่ามันมีแบบ social layer ที่แบบแปลกไม่ได้คิดว่ามันจะออกมาได้ขนาดนี้อะไรเงี้ยเหมือนแบบนัยยะของอะไรคือบ้านใครเป็นเจ้าของบ้านใครเป็นเจ้าของที่ตรงนี้คือมันคือเราเหรอหรือมันคือคนที่มาก่อนเรามันอะไรอย่างเงี้ยมันจะมีประเด็นพวกนี้ที่แบบน่าสนใจแบบเหมือนแบบ and also I think another interesting aspect is that there's there's ถ้าดูในเทรลเลอร์มันจะมีประโยคที่บอกว่าผีมีศาสนาด้วยอ่ะผีมันเลือกศาสนาได้ด้วยก็มีประเด็นนี้อยู่ในเรื่องด้วยว่าแบบเหมือนคล้ายๆแบบหลวงพ่อก็ต้องบอกว่า maybe อยู่ต้องไปเอาอิหม่ามมาปราบนะเพราะว่ามันมาจาก
คนละ territory
คนละมิติอะไร
Oh, and that could be a problem too, right? Is that you and the ghost or the jinn is from like different background or like cultural or religious background, so it's hard to deal with.
It's part of the conflict in the film and the resolution in the film as well, because with there's also a very famous Southeast Asian actor based out of Malaysia called Bron, he's like, he feels like the antagonist. So my character and his character, he's this Muslim character who I find lurking around my house and I don't know why he's there. So these two have to get to know each other. And they're from, Mid is Buddhist and his name in the film is Heem. Heem's is
Muslim.
and they have to find a way to resolve their mission together.
Okay. All right. A lot to look forward to. And I'm sure like the father-daughter relationship in the movie, there's something to that too, right? You've played a father before?
Not to a character this age. I was most nervous about that out of everything in terms of the work itself, the acting. I've been ห่วงตรงนั้นมาก because I've never had that type of relationship where I have to be the father figure to somebody that's mature. So if it's somebody younger, I've done that, and I feel like it's easier to communicate with somebody quite young. Like if somebody who's still fairly innocent and hasn't เรียกว่าอะไรยังไม่ได้ hasn't been affected by the world yet.
Yeah.
But when I was talking to Janice, I felt quite nervous in the beginning because I felt like I wasn't quite sure if we could connect. You know.
Oh, okay.
And so.
And did you express this concern to like the director? Or
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
คือเป็น that was the main thing that I was worried about ว่าไอจะแบบไม่สามารถ convey ความเป็นพ่อ this but the thing is that it actually worked because they had issues in their relationship so they had trouble connecting anyways
It works well into the roles.
Yeah, but my issue was that these characters still have to get to the resolution.
Yeah.
So I was afraid I couldn't get to the resolution.
Yeah.
But it was nice to work with her because she's also quite เขาก็เป็นนักแสดงจริงๆอ่ะแบบมัน she's more actor than celebrity, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Especially like in this world where nowadays the younger talent is pushed towards celebrity more than
Yeah, from what I heard and seen, she's very serious about her acting career.
She's a proper actor, which made it really nice to made it so much easier for us to communicate because when I spoke to her about we should speak about the character's history, it's not in the script, but I think we should create some kind of timeline between us two so that we can know that we share the same memories.
I see.
So basically, we spoke about how our relationship was when we were younger, when she was younger, when she became more mature, how was our first fight, how do I, things like how did I react the first time I found out she was speaking to boys or something, stuff like this.
Yeah.
And they're not in the story, but they're implied. So for instance, like she'll say something like, พ่อเอาอีกแล้วทำไมต้องทำอย่างนี้อีกแล้วอ้าวเราไม่รู้ว่าเขาพูดถึงอะไรอยู่แต่มัน มัน imply to some kind of event, right?
Something must have happened in the past.
And so
what was that?
Even though the script doesn't say what it is, it's implied. So we went back and we spoke about these things and
what could it be or what
happened
then?
And then the more detailed you are with it, the better. Because then, I mean, detailed to the point, like, let's say มันเป็น the first time that อยู่กับลูกแบบทะเลาะกันจริงๆyou can say แบบทะเลาะกันเรื่อง you are arguing about ABC. But if you want to go into detail, it could also be, was it at night? Was it during the day? Was it raining? And all these details add to that memory. And so when you have those shared memories, for me anyways, when I had those shared memories, every time I would see her, I would feel like, okay, we have a past together. Even though I just met her like a couple weeks ago, I'm like, at least we know the same thing.
Right. Making it real and authentic. You can really feel.
Yeah. It's kind of like, if I want to say sorry, right? But in the script, it's like that's part of his character. He has trouble expressing himself. So let's say one of the things are I would like to apologize to you. If you don't know what that thing is, then it's hard to give that meaning, right?
Yeah.
Because like อยากพูดขอโทษแต่ไม่รู้จะขอโทษเรื่องอะไร
Uh-huh.
จะบอกว่ามันไม่ได้เขียนอยู่ในบทไม่ได้แปลว่าเราไม่ควรรู้อ่ะก็ต้องรู้อ่ะก็เลยไปทำประวัติพ่อลูกกันมา ช่วยได้เยอะ
ครับ นี่น่าจะเป็นสิ่งที่มันสนุกแล้วก็ต่างไปทุกครั้ง even though you're in the same genre of movie but your co-actor changes and the storylines changes but you can keep doing this just to get into the roles right
because you don't exist in a vacuum, right? You exist in the world where all the other characters exist as well. So you can't just ทำ history ของยูเองแล้วก็แบบว่า
ไม่สนทำลายใครเลย
กูมีของกูแล้วของมึงอยากจะคิดยังไงก็แล้วแต่อะไรเงี้ยมันก็จะดีมาก it's so much nicer when your partners are willing to do it with you because you bond you get time to bond outside of the work and then you also have these memories that you can share so I try to do that with every film it's not always successful some people are not into
this is not just you
some people are like
okay
like fuck this don't give me the extra work please
so what else do you love outside acting because like acting you've been loving and doing this for a long time is there anything else that you have been loving this for a long time and you're not gonna stop loving it pretty soon or anything else new in your life that you just found and I also love this
well ironically that time during COVID that I couldn't act nobody could act that I wasn't working, I found that I'm also it sounds very like hippie, but I'm also very connected to nature in a way. I feel very very comfortable in nature. I've always been quite an active person, but I mean like this felt like a different level. It felt like this feeling of I could live here type of feeling. I've never felt that prior to COVID. I had always felt my life was very transient. It's like this job to the next job to this location to that location. And when the world stopped for a couple of years during COVID, it was the first time I had the chance to really sit still and be like, oh, this is actually something I could see in my future. And which was nice. It's satisfying to find something like that because it's like a physical interpretation of the future. It's like it's สิ่งที่จับต้องได้ It's like ถ้าให้อยู่แบบมันเห็นภาพแบบมีทะเลมีเขามีต้นไม้แบบอยู่ได้แล้วแบบรู้สึกไม่มี anxiety when I don't feel like I'm in the correct place I sometimes feel anxious and I've always dealt with insomnia and so usually when I find that place where I feel at ease and the way that I know I'm truly that anxiety is starting to let go is I sleep.
You have a good night of sleep.
I have, and during COVID, I just found there were places that I found that I felt like just very comfortable, and I could sleep normally.
So
I'm back. Like my insomnia is back now. Like
okay. Just go back to nature soon.
Yeah. Okay. No, but it's that's the conflict that I have, right? Because I'm quite, and it's weird that I do this for a living. Because this job introduces me to the environment that's just filled with people, right? And it kind of puts me in this position to be extroverted, but I'm in a sense very introverted. And so I find it funny that, or bit ironic that this is what I love as a profession, but it's so against my nature.
Yeah, it happens to a lot of people, me included. Like I'm also an introvert, but sometimes we have to be in front of camera to do our job, and
Yeah.
we can just like switch to this particular mode for a while, and then at the end of the day, we have to switch back to our default.
I don't find it tiring when I'm acting because I've been trained that way.
Okay.
But I find it tiring when, for instance, my wife เขาเป็นเจ้าของแบรนด์ใช่ไหม she's a fashion designer, so she has a brand called My Only Sunshine. Oh, fun story. We came up with that during COVID.
Oh,
ไม่มีอะไร
okay.
ทำไงขับรถเล่นแล้วแบบเขาแบบช่วยคิดชื่อแบรนด์หน่อย
Yeah.
แล้วฟังเพลงนี้บ่อย so it's like
Business
how about
is born. Yeah.
how about My Only Sunshine. Anyways,
Okay.
วิธีขายของเขาที่มันthat's very effective is they go live ใช่ไหมขาย live อะ IG อะไรเงี้ย โอ้โหโคตรเหนื่อย อันนี้เหนื่อยแบบใช้พลังงานแบบสูงมากอะคือแบบ
And you're there to
แบบ
to
so I
of
help her
course.
every now and again you
Yeah.
know like สวัสดีครับคุณลูกค้า เสื้อตัวนี้อย่างนี้เกงตัวนี้ราคาเท่านี้โอ้โหดูสิมันเย็บดีมากนี่ แล้วแบบมันใช้พลังงานสูงมาก I do it for like an hour and I'm like oh my god like mentally แบบ mentally drain completely drain แบบมันต้องเป็นบุคลิกแบบคนที่แบบ
Yeah.
for me anyways I feel like มันต้องเป็นคนแบบไอ้นึกถึงคนแบบพวกไอ้พี่กะละแมหรือแบบไอ้แบบพิมรีพายแบบ
Yeah.
I have แบบ respect เลยอะแบบ
Yeah.
ทำได้ไงวะ
So for those type of people, the more they do, the more energy they have.
I
It's
know.
not
and,
unlike us.
And the thing is, the crazy thing is that they say it over and over again. อันนั้นคือโหแบบโคตรงงเลย because เราลืมไปว่ามันมีคนเข้าออกตลอดเวลา คนที่ลูกค้าซื้อใช่ไหมเขาแล้วก็ต้องย้ำให้เขาฟังไง แต่ในหัวกูแบบกูเพิ่งพูดไป10 รอบ กูเหนื่อยแล้ว แต่ก็ต้องมายิ้มแบบคุณลูกค้า
But you know what? At least we are still very happy, and it's still good news that you still love acting and you keep doing it because we can keep supporting you and we can keep seeing you in roles. And yeah, the Curse Land is going to be actually is supposed to be in the theater as we speak right now. Just
okay.
go check it out, right?
go check it out.
All right, so thank you so much for coming to the show.
Absolutely.
But last but not least, since our show is called Comedy, right? We are big on words. So I'd like to know if you have your favorite word in Thai and in English. What words do you like?
It's not even Thai, it's more like Lao.
Okay, sure. Even better.
ห้วย ชอบมากมันแบบ
Even for someone who
it's like-
doesn't know how to speak loud, know that word. Yeah.
I don't know why มันแบบทำให้ยิ้มอ่ะ ใครแบบห้วย
Hui.
คือแบบกูยิ้มอ่ะ If it's English we just shot a film in Krabi and it was fun, like it was super fun but it was just like all the things that could go wrong went wrong. People got sick. Imagine anything that would go wrong on set went wrong on this film. But because we loved each other so much and there was such a cool vibe on set, we were sharing this meme of Bill O'Reilly. He's a newscaster ของ Fox. But the meme is basically he's like เหมือนแบบ teleprompter ไม่ทำงานใช่ไหม and he's คุยกับครูอยู่ ครูก็แบบ yeah just end the show. It's like what do you mean มันแบบ I can't see what's on this thing and they're like no it's okay just end the show. It's like what do you mean? And he's getting pissed off, right? And then eventually they're getting close to shooting and he's like fuck it we'll do it live.
Fuck it! Do it live!
And that became like the mantra of this film. And it's just something that stuck in my head that we'll do it live. Like เจอหน้ากัน we'll do it live.
Do it live. I love it. I love both of those words. So thank you so much, and I wish you all the luck with this film. And please always come back with like
Yeah,
better
absolutely.
and more things for us to enjoy. Thank you so much.
it's
ขอบคุณ
fun.
มากครับ
ครับขอบคุณครับไม่รู้ต้องทักใครวะ
ลูกค้าเปลี่ยนเร็วมากเลย ทำยังไงถึงจะชนะคู่แข่งได้ ธุรกิจทำซัสเทนยังไงให้มันเวิร์กจริงๆ ใช้ AI ยังไงให้ได้ประโยชน์มากที่สุด เราจะทำให้เรื่องราวของธุรกิจนั้นสนุกเข้าใจง่าย และเอาไปใช้ประโยชน์ได้จริงๆ The Secret Sauce Summit 2024 ปีนี้ต่างจากปีที่ผ่านมาครับ CEO รุ่นใหญ่ๆ เก๋าๆ ประสบการณ์เยอะๆ เรายังเชิญเข้ามาอยู่ครับ แต่ว่าเราจะเชิญตัวแทนของคนรุ่นใหม่ๆ มาด้วย และเรายังมีเอ็กซ์เพิร์ในมุมอื่นๆ ไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของ Biotech Neuroscience เรื่องของ TikTok เรื่องของ AI Sustain ทั้งหมดนี้จะทำให้คุณนั้นเป็นนักธุรกิจที่ชนะได้ในคลื่นใหม่ครับ เจอกันวันที่ 5-6 กันยายนนี้ที่พารากอนฮอลล์สยามพารากอนซื้อบัตรได้แล้ววันนี้นะครับที่10 Event ครับ